Hello and welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are tackling two weekends for the price of one, May 22nd and May 29th of 2015, with 5 films overall to take a look at. Why am I doing this week? I don't know, really. I mean, honestly, I could separate these two in general, but I've been missing out on a couple of days. A few weeks ago, there was a couple of days when I didn't put a Time About the Movies episode up, and it kind of goes behind schedule for me. So I figured, why not do this for this particular week? Because none of these movies in particular really left much of a lasting impact overall. Some of them were disappointments, some of them were massive flops, some of them were surprisingly pretty good, and some of them were just okay for what they were, but we'll touch on all of those and then some. We've already wasted so much time already, so let's just go ahead and jump into our first movie, and that is Tomorrowland, Brad Bird's live-action directorial follow-up after his directorial live-action debut, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which made everybody think that Brad Bird was going to be kind of the next big live-action director, and then this film came out and didn't do so well, and so it probably means the movie wasn't that great, right? Sort of. Bound by a shared destiny, a bright, optimistic team bursting with scientific curiosity, Britt Robertson, and a former boy genius inventor jaded by disillusionment, played by George Clooney, embark on a danger-filled mission to unearth the secrets of an enigmatic place somewhere in time and space that exists in the collective memory as Tomorrowland. Of course, Tomorrowland is based off of the attraction in Disney World and Disneyland, and also pretty much every Disney park ever, but it had been shrouded in secrecy for many years, and despite that, we still get excited because of who's involved. Like I said, Brad Bird, that smooth transition he made from animation director to live-action director with The Incredibles and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. You got George Clooney, who hardly ever makes a bad movie at this point. A really good cast that includes an up-and-coming actress in Britt Robertson, Hugh Laurie, Tim McGraw, Catherine Hahn, Keegan-Michael Key. It was hard not to get excitement for the movie, and the movie did deliver for the most part. I mean, I did enjoy it, and that was because I got what Brad Bird was going for here. You could watch the movie and you could tell Brad Bird wanted to create something like an old-fashioned live-action Disney movie from the early days, like the 60s and 70s. They tried to do this a couple years prior with Race to Witch Mountain with Dwayne Johnson, who we'll get to later on a little bit here, but that one was okay, but didn't really fly as well as I think they wanted it to. This one really did feel like a Disney movie from the early days, when the studio decided to go for more live-action movies, where the motif was to just make a solid, fun action-adventure movie, like the early Witch Mountain movies, or even 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or Treasure Island, and they definitely succeeded for just being solid, fun adventure films, and like those movies, this one definitely has a lot of flaws to it, but we'll touch on the positives first. I thought the visuals overall were really impressive. That's the movie's greatest element, is the visual style. From recreating the 1964 New York World's Fair, you got like the themes from the Carousel of Progress from the Magic Kingdom, and also It's a Small World playing in the background, to this impressive-looking world of the future in its good days and its bad days, too. I like the fact that they have both of them at the same time. The cast overall, I think, is great. George Clooney gets to play outside of his norm and just play a grumpy person who, for the first time in a long time, we see him just being so bitter, kind of like a Walter Matthau in a way, but still likable, too. As the film progresses, he still is very likable. Britt Robertson's really good in this. I'm glad they made her this great optimistic character from her. They made her a great optimistic character from her without making her annoying or obnoxious, or that great chosen one storyline where the main hero of the story really doesn't know why she's being chosen up until the moment where she has to prove herself. And it's refreshing to see a chosen one storyline that doesn't fall into the same old cliches most of these stories do. Tim McGraw I actually thought was pretty good in this. You can forget that this guy can act, and he's been pretty good in stuff like The Blind Side, Friday Night Lights, and here he plays a really good character in Casey's father, and I'm glad they didn't pull the same thing that they did with him in Friday Night Lights. I like the fact that he didn't have the cliche character trait. They made his character more approachable and didn't turn him into a jackass father. It would have been so easy to do that with him, where he doesn't believe his kids and is just a jerk, but they don't do that. He's just as optimistic as he is, but he's more realistic to more situations, and when he needs to get upset, it feels authentic. It doesn't feel like he's overdoing it for the sake of being the jackass father. No, he's really doing it to prove a point. I like the newer names in here. Rafi Cassidy, who plays Athena, I thought was pretty good in here. She does some of the. She actually does have the best bits of comedy and chemistry between the main actors. Thomas Robinson, that was pretty good playing the younger version of George Clooney's character, and he does look really close to what George Clooney probably would have looked like as a kid. The action sequences are really good too. They're shot very nicely. It doesn't feel forced or overdrawn out. The music by Michael Giacchino is great because it's Michael Giacchino. I mean, what else do you can expect from him? And I like the whole blast from the past segment where Casey goes to this collector store. And the reason why I love that scene is because you can see all the inside jokes and references to Brad Bird's other works. Like, there's stuff from The Simpsons, there's stuff from The Iron Giant, there's stuff with, there's more Iron Giant stuff in that one scene than there was in real life. I mean, at that time, yeah, keep in mind, The Iron Giant was not the big financial hit, so there was no need for Warner Bros. To make all the stuff that they did, that they would eventually make when the film got re-released and found this new appraisal over the years. But you got references to Star Wars in here, Star Trek, The Rocketeer. This is one of those great scenes where they take your focus away from the actual story going on. And even though the scene itself with Keegan-Michael Key and Catherine Hahn actually does work, even though it's mostly there for comic relief, it still works, which does lead me to some of the negatives of the movie. One of the biggest problems that the movie has was that because it was a movie so shrouded in so much mystery up to this point, it doesn't really explain a whole lot. They don't explain why Hugh Laurie's character in this movie, or Rafi Cassidy's character, never aged. They don't explain how Casey's mother dies. They don't explain how the pins work. Like, how is it when you touch this coin and all of a sudden you're transported into this world, and it never makes any sense. But when others touch it, it does nothing. And more importantly, they don't explain what happens to yourself in the real world after you're transported there, except you only have a limited range of where you can go. I mean, let's see what happens in real life when that happens. Why do we need to avoid these scenes? Like, I get it if you touch the coin and nothing happens. You probably are not a believer. Like something like the Polar Express, where you had the scene where the kid, he rings the bell and he hears the bell, and that means that he thinks Santa Claus is real. Meanwhile, when anybody else rings it and they don't hear it, they don't believe it. Like, have something like that in this movie. Another thing that really did kind of bug me was the fact that the villains were kind of bland. Hugh Laurie's character really could have been much more interesting or complex, but they basically just make him the live-action equivalent of the villain from Wall-E, where he clearly sees hope in what was once believed to be a lost cause, and he just doesn't want to accept the fact and stops at nothing to destroy him. It's literally the same thing taken from Wall-E. Not to mention, the robots that this guy sends out to kill Casey were so over the top, especially the main robot, who really looks like a mix between Billy Zane and the over-the-top acting from Richard E. Grant and Hudson Hawk. It was that bad. It was so corny, and the movie does nothing with it. There's like 2-3 scenes, and then they're gone. Never mentioned ever again. And they do a pretty bad job of covering up some of the things that they do for normal people. Like the blast from the past store blows up, and the cops are there, but then the robots come in and just start blasting people to smithereens in front of the whole town. And not only that, the whole Eiffel Tower sequence, which is this cool sequence, doesn't even try to hide the fact that the Eiffel Tower is literally going up in the air. Just like, they blast off in front of hundreds of people. There's people literally taking photos and videos of this. I mean, once they blast off, all the electricity goes out, but that doesn't mean it's going to stop them from getting videos and photos. It's still in their phones. I mean, they really need those neutralizers the neuralizers from Men in Black or something like that. But the third act really is where the film really falters off, because not only does it not make any sense whatsoever, but it really loses a lot of its motivation of what the film is trying to be. This is a script that's clearly influenced by Walt Disney's optimistic philosophy of innovation and utopia, such as what Epcot was supposed to be, the experimental prototype city of tomorrow, this planned community. The first 2 acts definitely show that, but the third act basically says, there is no hope. There is no future. And you're basically taking away what made the first 2 acts work and just pandering it down to a third act. I mean, it's like the third act got, lost or something, or what it was trying to accomplish. Like something was, left over, and they decided not to trek into darkness and just go all out. And inside create this future that looks like a world war breaking out between cowboys and aliens happening. Prometheus. I think you get the hint. This was written by Damon Lindelof. Of course that's why the third act is terrible. I mean, seriously, Damon Lindelof, what is your problem with the third act? I mean, Cowboys and Aliens, Prometheus, Star Trek in the Darkness, World War Z, every single one of these movies has some of the worst third acts that destroy really solid movies, and once again, he does it here. I just don't get what this guy's problem is. Like, the guy can write 2 good acts, and then when they get to the third act, it's just like, no, I'm done trying. Like, did a third act kill your mother or rape your dog or something? Like, why can't you just write a good story with a third act that actually works for the story you're telling? You can't just add another element to the story that you haven't even set up at that point. It's just like, my God, man, it's like, this is, like I said, this is like the 5th film that he's done where he's put a third act like this. That's really is the worst part of the movie, and that really is the worst part of the movie is the third act, and it's just like, my God, dude, like, seriously. Despite all of that, Tomorrowland is still a very good movie. I think it does set itself up in the style and format of the classic era live-action Disney films. There is enough good characters there to make the movie watchable. The action sequences are really good. It's a good movie, but not a great one. And for a film directed by Brad Bird, we expect so much more from this dude. And it doesn't fall into Interstellar territory where the second half was really bad overall and it just desperately needed a rebound of the third act. I mean, don't get Lindelof to write it. Get somebody else to write the third act of your movie. It's just like, okay, I'm done with that. But overall, a good movie, not a great one. It's worth it if you want to see another Brad Bird live-action effort by him. But for the love of God, stop hiring Damon Lindelof, damn it. Anyway, that is Tomorrowland. So let's go ahead and move on to the other big new release this weekend, a remake of a classic horror film, modernized for the 21st century, and that is Poltergeist.
There are ghost stories. And then there's Poltergeist.
They're here. Poltergeist.
Rated PG-13.
Yeah, trying to remake a classic movie in Poltergeist is probably not the smartest thing to do, even though you got Sam Raimi as one of the producers on here. The writer is David Lindsay-Abaire, who, of course, has written a lot of... is a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, and also Gil Cannon, who's made a lot of good movies, Monster House, City of Ember, the recent Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. But yeah, this film... yeah, even with their talents involved in here, they can't save this stinker. I mean, this one is pretty bad, and we're pretty much going to explain why that is fairly quickly. Just like the original film, you have a family who arrives at their new home and begins experiencing paranormal occurrences. Yeah, and it's that type of a movie where, you know, it's the type of film where it's literally just nothing but nostalgia baiting. I mean, there's literally, you literally saw it in that trailer there, where where the little girl's just like, they're here, and then the thing just stops and the monster comes out. It's just like, we get it. You're part of you're remaking Poltergeist. Just like, I mean, the whole movie is just a bunch of remember this, remember this, remember this. The scares in this movie are not scary whatsoever. The original Poltergeist still has moments in that movie over 40 years later that still scare the bejesus out of me. Like, even as a kid, when I watched that movie for the first time, that scene where the clown just comes out of nowhere and takes that and puts that kid in the chokehold, that still creeps me the fuck out even to this very day. You want to know what the scariest scene in this remake is? It's not anything in the movie. It happens in the first 15 seconds of the movie. This is the scariest scene in the whole film. Yeah, that right there. The MGM logo shortening out and just, you know, I mean, that right there is the scariest scene in the entire movie because it comes out of nowhere. The first time I saw that, I jumped. Like, it's just like, holy crap, that was terrifying. And maybe it's because that's a thing that can literally kill me. A lion. I mean, we just talked about Roar not too long ago. Yeah, lions can kill you in real life. These ghosts cannot. And the movie is just begging you to be scared. Like it's not even trying to hide how lazy it is in terms of its development, in terms of the marketing for this. The marketing is literally this clown doll that's supposed to be the terrifying thing in this movie, and no, man, it's not that at all. Like, you could put that clown thing on there if you want to. You'll never top what the 82 movie did. Really, that's the biggest problem with the movie, man. You're trying to recreate a movie that was so ahead of its time. It's a film that still terrifies the bejesus out of people to this very day. This thing came and went, and really, it's not surprising to see why. Like, I mean, I'll give Gil Cannon credit for trying his best to try to recreate that energy again, but the film this was going to be a tough act to do regardless. I mean, this is a film where you really need the right pieces to come together to make for a great remake, and you basically just didn't have to do the same thing you did with the previous movie, and that's really the biggest flaw of it. You can't just simply remake the original movie and not do anything new or different with it. A lot of remakes and sequels have that problem of essentially just doing the same thing that the first movie did, except upping the technology and all that. Just like, okay, well, that's not really going to help you. And at this point, with so many of these remakes that have come out ever since this one, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Carrie, Amityville Horror, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, most of them are not good, if anything, that great. It's just such a waste. It's a waste of time, really. It's not scary whatsoever. It's lazy. It's not intimidating whatsoever. Even with the talent that they have on board in here, nobody really gave a shit about this movie when it came out, and yeah, nobody's given a shit about it since then. And it's just why even bother doing it? Like, why even bother remaking it if you're not even going to do anything unique or inventive with it? Like, it's basically got the same problems that the Exorcist movies recently, the Exorcist Believer had recently, or the David Gordon Green Halloween movies with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. It's the same movie over and over and over again. You're trying to add this message that isn't there. This one doesn't have a message to it, but it just feels like so much more effort and creativity could have gone to this to make this really special, especially with Gil Kennan on board and the people that they have involved in the cast here: Sam Rockwell, Rosemary DeWitt, Jane Addams, Jared Harris. But there's literally nothing about this movie that's new or creative. It's just another Poltergeist movie, and audiences were smart enough to stay away from it. It was not the big hit that they were hoping for. The critics didn't like it. Audiences really didn't like it. And it was considered inferior to the original. And so, yeah, why even bother remaking it at this point? But, they're going to remake it again at some point. Well, hopefully when they do, it'll be a much better movie than this was. That's for certain. But let's get back to some good stuff, though. Let's take a look at the latest film from Studio Ghibli, and that is When Marnie Was There.
In my dreams, I saw a girl just like you. Marty! Promise me something that will remain a secret forever.
So how long until the secret gets revealed? It's going to be that way, but this is the latest film from Studio Ghibli, based off of Joan G. Robinson's 1967 novel, the same name, where you have Anna Sasaki staying with her relatives in the town of Kushiro, in the Kushiro wetlands in Hokkaido. Anna comes across a nearby abandoned mansion where she meets Marty, a mysterious girl who asks her to promise to keep their secrets from everyone. As summer progresses, Anna spends more time with Marty and learns the truth about her family and adoption. And as you saw from the trailer there, this has an English dub cast that includes Haley Steinfeld, Kieran Shipka, the late Catherine O'Hara, Vanessa Williams, Gina Davis, John C. Reilly, Greg DeLisle, I think I pronounced it right, but Ellen Burstyn, Kathy Bates. There is a lot of good people in this movie in general, in terms of the voice casting, and it's a Studio Ghibli movie. Of course it's going to look amazing on screen, and yeah, it's an engaging film overall. Is it one of their better movies? I'm not going to go that far. It's no Spirited Away. It's no, what's another one? What's another one of their really good ones? I just had one. Let me look here again. I'm gonna know as soon as I see it. Spirited Away, I didn't mention that. Yeah, Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Boy in the Heron, I would throw that in there. Yeah, it's another one of they're really solid films overall. It's a beautifully animated movie, has a lot of really good elements in the story department. The voice work is nicely done. It has a lot of good emotional moments. The music is well done. It's a Studio Ghibli movie. They don't usually make bad films. The worst one they ever did was when they went CG with Earwig, and that didn't pan out well. But this one, yeah, it's Studio Ghibli doing a Studio Ghibli best. So let's go ahead now and move on to the last weekend of May with 2 releases, including Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in San Andreas.
San Andreas, rated PG-13, May 29th.
See, Roland Emmerich, this is how you make a disaster movie fun. At least I thought it was really fun. San Andreas is essentially, you have a massive earthquake caused by the San Andreas fault that devastates the west coast of the United States, and basically people can feel the effects all the way to the east coast. I mean, that's how big this earthquake is. It's essentially a remake of the classic movie Earthquake from the 1970s, this time with a much bigger budget and a lot of today's hottest stars in it. You got Dwayne Johnson, Carla Gugino reuniting again after Race to Witch Mountain, Alexander Daddario, hot young star at this point, Ian Grufford from the Fantastic Four films, Archie Panjabi from The Good Wife, Paul Giamatti, written by Carlton Cuse, again, another writer from Lost, and directed by, of all people, Brad Peyton, the same guy who previously before this did Journey to the Mysterious Island and Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore, and proves that, hey, this guy has range as a director, because he can make these kids films that are surprisingly fun, for not just for kids but adults, but also a film like this that falls into the predictable disaster film territory. But as I said before, this is what happens when you take a Roland Emmerich movie, take Roland Emmerich out of it, and make a fun film out of it, because this is a very fun film. The casting overall is really good here. You also got Will Young Lee, Kylie Minogue? Why am I having trouble pronouncing these names? It's Kylie Minogue, isn't it? The singer, the singer from the 80s and 90s. She's in here. You got Colton Haynes. You got a lot of notable character actors in here. The visual effects overall are really cool. The earthquake effects do work very well, and you do get attached to the characters overall. It reminds me of like I said, stuff like Earthquake. There was in the old school TV movies, like NBC had that one, the big one, the Great Los Angeles Earthquake, that came out a year after the infamous Loma Prieta earthquake in '89. I mean, they're generic, but they're fun overall, and the fact that they were able to pull off what they did with the small budget they had back then made that a fun film. That's really much what you get here. I mean, yeah, the script overall, it's pretty standard stuff in general. It's basically a typical earthquake movie, but a fun typical earthquake movie. This is like an old school 70s disaster movie, like the aforementioned Earthquake, like the Poseidon Adventure, like the Towering Inferno, the good disaster movies from back then, not stuff like When Time Ran Out, or the Swarm, or the lesser Airplane sequels. I mean, this is a fun, over-the-top movie that you do get a lot of enjoyment out of, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, mostly because of Dwayne Johnson overall leading the charge here, and the visual effects, which are pretty fun overall. I mean, it's not a movie that you're going to go into it looking for some smart material, but it is a fun movie regardless. It's a film that knows what it is, and you basically go into it having a good time with it, and yeah, it's a very fun time all across the board. I really enjoyed this one. A lot of fun overall. I enjoyed it. I recommend it, San Andreas. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last film, what is easily the most unmitigated disaster of the entire weekend, Cameron Crowe's latest film, Aloha.
Well, I remember the good times.
There were no good times. You cost us our prime new partner, a new space command center, all gone because cool guy here, Mr. Sexy Pants, Brian Gilchrist, blew the mission. You were going to wear this like Flava Flav wears a clock.
Which is funny, because I think that's actually surveillance footage of the Sony Pictures offices the weekend after the movie came out. Yeah, this film was not a big hit whatsoever. In fact, it basically kind of killed Cameron Crowe's career in general here. And I have an interesting story about this one. So my plan originally was to see this movie in particular that weekend. I know there was a lot of negative reviews coming out for that movie, but I was still planning on seeing it because it's just like, I saw a lot of other negative reviews in the past for movies, stuff like Unfinished Business and The Other Woman, and I actually ended up really enjoying those movies. Annie was another one I really enjoyed. Hell, most recently, Ella McKay, which everyone hated, but I surprisingly enjoyed. That, and also The Bride, if you want to even go down that route. That just came out not too long ago as of the time of recording this, but... So I was going to go in there. I actually was about to get my ticket, and then something happened that I never had happen at that point, the 10 years I'd been reviewing movies. A thought bubble in my head came into my head, and I had this feeling. My brain was basically telling me not to see this movie. For some strange reason, I had this thought to myself just as I was about to buy my ticket, and it basically was just like, don't do this. This movie will not end well for you if you go and see this. And basically that means I probably would have walked out of this movie. It would have been my third or fourth movie I've ever walked out of. But, yeah, so I eventually decided not to go see the film. Plus, I think it was a nice day outside, too. So I figured, why would I waste my time in a movie theater like that, is watching a bad movie like this instead of just going and enjoying the sunshine? Because I think that's what it was. But like I said, that had never happened to me before. I'd never had a moment where I was just about to see a film and just get this horrible feeling in the back of my head saying, don't do this. Like, I felt like a Han Solo in a Star Wars, just like, I got a bad feeling about this. Like, never happened to me when I saw Sucker Punch. Never happened to me when I saw Lucy. Never happened to me when I saw Big Mama's Like Father, Like Son. Big Mama's House 3 didn't make me feel that way. Neither did The Spirit or Aliens in the Attic, the two movies I have walked out of. But I don't know what happened. And honestly, from what I heard about it, it was probably the right decision. I couldn't help but wonder why my thoughts gave me that impression not to see the film. But then again, when you hear the stuff about the film in general, how the film basically whitewashes all of Hawaii, and how the film just didn't feel like a summer release, and when I did the research on the ending of the film, like, one of the other biggest things I heard about this film was that they casted Emma Stone as an Asian American, and I think I made the right call back then not to see the movie. However, it's been 11 years later, and I'm sad to say that I have finally seen this movie. So, what is this movie? Is this movie about as bad as you think it is? Oh yeah, it's bad. It is really, really bad. Bradley Cooper stars as a former U.S. Air Force officer named Brian Gilchrist, who returns to Hawaii after being rehired by a former boss to oversee the launch of a privatized weapons satellite in the skies over Hawaii. The episode of the cast includes the aforementioned Emma Stone, Rachel McAdams, Bill Murray, John Krasinski, Danny McBride, and Alec Baldwin. Yeah, everything that everybody said about this movie was 100% true. This movie is absolutely horrible. Horrible. This is basically Cameron Crowe's North. This is Cameron Crowe's Mixed Nuts. This is that movie where they bring in all these different stars into this film, and they just have nothing to do here, and just play these characters that feel so out of place. This is Cameron Crowe's Ishtar, for God's sakes. That's the one thing that I always thought to myself when I saw this movie for the first time. This reminds me so much of Ishtar, because Ishtar was the very same thing. A high-budgeted movie with some notable names across the board. You know, Warren Beatty, Dustin Hoffman, and they're given nothing to do in this movie whatsoever. Like, this thing is unbelievably messy on so many levels. Like, this movie is abysmal, and it's just... I couldn't believe how bad it really was. Like, this was terrible. The fact that everybody in the cast knew that they shouldn't be whitewashing the entire movie in general. And keep in mind, this was the same year where we had the Oscars So White controversy, where not a single black person was nominated for the major Academy Awards. Like, this was that same year. And even the people who made the movie didn't realize it before it was too little too late that, yeah, we fucked up big time. Like, Cameron Crowe saw the backlash and basically said, "I have heard your words and your disappointment, and I offered a heartfelt apology to those who felt that this was an odd or misguided casting choice." Like, you've been developing this movie for what, 3 years in particular? Emma Stone was the first person to be cast in this movie, and you couldn't figure it out that Emma Stone playing somebody who's an Asian American is probably not the smartest move possible. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable how they butchered this whole thing, and it shows on screen that they messed up big time. But, hey, to their credit, this actually did lead to things getting better, because not but a few years later, we had the first studio film with an Asian American lead since the animated Ghost in the Shell and that was Crazy Rich Asians. Not talking about the live action Ghost in the Shell. That's that's an abortion of its own rights that we'll get to. But yeah, I mean, it eventually did lead to more movies with Asian American leads in it, with like Crazy Rich Asians and also Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, had it not been for this movie, we probably wouldn't have gotten these movies in particular. I mean, maybe we could have gotten Crazy Rich Asians because it was based off of a popular book. Shang-Chi, though, I mean, maybe not. I mean, you never know, because it could have been I don't know how Marvel really would have felt by casting an Asian American lead in that movie, but times have definitely changed for the better, and really we gotta thank this movie for backfiring big time to make that happen, man, because, man, this thing, I mean, I'm glad I waited so long to see this movie, because if I had seen this back then when I did, this would have been one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But luckily, I've seen it. It's been 11 years since then. I've seen far worse movies. I mean, this one is pretty bad, though. It's a terrible movie, and worst of all, it killed Cameron Crowe's career. I mean, this director was one of the best directors we had before this movie ruined it all. Like, this is the guy that directed Say Anything, Singles, Jerry Maguire, Almost Famous, Vanilla Sky, Elizabethtown. I mean, these are really good movies, and this was the thing that killed his career, like killed his film career. I mean, he's still directing stuff for television. He's still doing stuff. He still is behind the Almost Famous Broadway musical, and he was a producer on the David Crosby biopic, but documentary, I think it was. But yeah, he hasn't done anything of noteworthiness since this film. I mean, he really has not done anything since, and I mean, I don't know if he's been trying to get back on track or not, but yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen this guy being involved in anything. In fact, I'm curious, does he have anything planned? I see one thing he's been planning on working on, a Joni Mitchell biopic with Anya Taylor-Joy and Meryl Streep playing the younger and older versions. So, and this was about as updated as last August 2025. So maybe, just maybe, he's trying to come back, and he's got to find the perfect movie to get him back on track, because it's been 11 years since Aloha came out. And yeah, it's long overdue for him to get back in the swing of things. So hopefully that movie actually gets made, but yeah, Aloha, though, was really just an unmitigated disaster on so many levels. I mean, it took me a long time to realize it, but yeah, this thing is pretty bad. This was absolutely abysmal. Abysmal. With an Abiysmal. Abysmal. I don't even know if I spelled that right. I'm just kind of meandering around. I'm just kind of pandering on here. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and we'll jump into the start of June with 3 big movies, including Paul Feig's follow-up to The Heat, Spy with Melissa McCarthy, Jason Statham, and Rose Byrne. Turned out to be one of the big surprises of the year. We also have the 3rd installment of the Insidious series, Insidious Chapter 3, and I thought we'd get to this one later on down the road, but nope. We're finally going to talk about the Entourage movie, which, for those of you who thought I was being way too harsh on the Sex and the City movie, wait until you hear what I have to say about the Entourage movie, because, yeah, this one is basically the equivalent of that movie, except it's for the guys instead of the girls. But we'll take a look at those 3 films. I think it is just those 3 films. Oh, no. 4 films, because we are definitely going to talk about this masterpiece. Okay, maybe it's not a masterpiece, but it's certainly one of the more underrated movies that came out that year, and I did a video already about this, but Love and Mercy, with John Cusack starring as Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and Elizabeth Banks and Paul Giamatti. So, yeah, it's 4 films we're going to look at next time around. 4 films, of course, Spy, Insidious Chapter 3, Entourage, and Love and Mercy. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.